Hello and welcome to the section on control structures. Let's look at the section objective. After completing the section, you will be able to write if and switch conditional statements. Condition is just basically to check if something is true or false, and you can do it with if and switch control statements. Then you should be able to write loops using for, while and do while. Then you will understand some keywords like break, continue and return, and how you should be used in the looping statements. Then you'll learn how to include file using include, include once, require and require once, and you'll see the difference between include and include once and compare it with include and versus require. Then you'll understand when to use include and when to use require. Then we'll learn how to use the goto keyword, how to move around in the program using this goto keyword. Then you can work with exercises, interview question, resources and the assignments using the control structures. Let's jump into the lecture and understand each of the topic in detail. Hello and welcome to the lecture on control structures. So we're going to look into if and else statements. Okay, so open up the example. If you go to material folder, control structures, go to example 1, if else statement. Open up the logical flow and deliverables file. So let's look at what you will learn in this lecture. First, we'll look at the syntax of if and else condition, how to write an if and else condition. Then we'll, using those if and else, we'll check if the user given the input is correct or not. Then using the if condition statements, we'll write without the braces, curly braces, and see how it behaves. Then we'll check if student is pass or failed. So we'll do all these 4 examples, and for that we'll create the 4 files for it. Okay, so let's create a folder. So I'm in the amps ww folder. Let's create a folder here, control. Okay, we'll place all our files here. So let's go ahead and create one file first. Copying the file name, go to Sublime, Control N, Control S, find our folder control. Okay, so we'll create the file here. So let me paste the logical sequence we're going to do our program here. First we will check the syntax, then we'll check user inputs, then we'll write the if condition without braces, and then we'll check if student is pass or fail. Okay, so I'll create the sample 1 first. That's the 1 file. Then we'll create the sequence files like 2, 3 and 4. Okay, so the first one is basically to understand how to write an if else statements. Okay, I want you to follow the coding standards and follow how the coding style has been used here. Okay, you need to follow that. Let's define some variables, boolean variable. Okay, now I'll define a if statement. If you look at the coding style here, this is how you basically write an if condition. If, then you open a close a parenthesis here, then you open the curly braces, then you close the curly braces, and if you have an else, then you can write an else statement, then you can write the close the open and the curly braces. You no need to have the space, is okay to have a space, but just to look it nicer. Okay, I'm just adding some space here. Okay, this is how you should write your coding style as well. This is how the if condition should be written, with if keyword and also open and close parenthesis, some space here. Okay, then some space here just to look it nicer. Okay, now let's put our condition here. Let's say some boolean condition here. You have to put a true or a false condition here. You can use operators. We're going to look into all those things. Okay, and then we'll echo out. This is a if block condition. And this is a true condition, right? So whenever the condition is true, this if block is executed, and whenever the condition is false, the else block is executed. So I'm going to copy paste here. and I'm gonna say this is an else block, and this is a false condition. Okay, so you have true condition and false condition. Because this variable is a false, the else condition will be executed. So let's go to control folder and we're gonna run this file. Okay, and you'll able to see the else part printed. Okay, because if check for true and false, if it is true, this block of code is executed. If it is false, the else block is executed. Because the some boolean condition is false, that's why the else block is executed. If the same thing is true, then you can see the true condition is executed. The if block is executed and true condition is executed. Okay, so remember the if always checks for true and false. If it is true, the if will be executed. If it is false, else block will be executed. So we'll define one more variable. I'll say one more boolean condition, which is false. Let's make it to false again. And now we will check two conditions. Okay, we'll check this condition and even this condition. Now let's copy paste this one. Okay, can you guess the output here? I want you to make a guess here. What happens if it's false and false? What will be printed here? Okay, the else block will be printed here. What happens if it is true and false? If it is true and false, then it is false. True and true. Okay, then we'll execute this and it's a true block condition. Okay, so that's how you basically write an if condition. You have an if block, then you have an else block. If is always true, else is always false. Next, I want to show you an example how you're going to write an if condition inside an HTML page. Okay, how the HTML output can also be managed with the if conditions. For this, I'm going to paste an HTML code here. Okay, there's nothing inside it. Let's write an inside the body. Okay, so I'm going to write an PHP code and I'm going to say if sub boolean condition, or you can say true, right? Then this will always be true. I'm enclosing this. Okay, so this is an if statement here inside the HTML. Okay, and whatever is inside written inside this will be under the if condition. Okay, so I'm gonna say h1, this is a true condition. Okay, now we're gonna close the if condition and then I'm gonna write the else. So we can say PHP okay, so I'm writing the PHP again, starting and opening the PHP by closing the if tag and also opening up the else tag now. Okay, and whatever you write here inside this will be printed once the condition is false. Okay, then we're going to close the else. And if you look at this example, it's very important to understand how PHP generally behaves inside the HTML. Okay, you have open and closed the PHP if conditions, then you are trying to print something, then you have open and close the else part. Okay, let's quickly look into this file first. Okay, so now we have HTML, so we have to close the PHP. Okay, so I've closed the PHP, opening and closing the PHP, then we have the HTML here. Okay, so let's open the browser, localhost control, and put the file name here. So this is a true condition, so let's change this to false, and I'm gonna delete this up, then it will be a false condition. So this is a false condition. And if you look at the conditions, right, the conditions are the HTML output is managed by the if conditions. So what you want to print on the browser, You can even control that with the if condition. This is a very important logic to understand, because this is how you play around with what text you need to send to the user. And how you're going to check that is basically using the if condition. So you can mix and match PHP and HTML together, and you can hide some part of the code using the conditions as well. So if the user is logged in, you want to show some part of HTML. If the user is not logged in, then you want to see some part of the HTML, and this can be done with this kind of syntax. Okay, you can still use the PHP method and write the if conditions and put all the HTML code here, and the PHP, once this execute, this file will manage and decide which conditions of if is true, and that part of HTML will be given back to the browser. Okay, that's why we are able to see different conditions and different outputs based on the if conditions here. If I make this back to true, then this is a true condition. Okay, so I hope this is very simple and easy to understand. Let's do the sample 2 now. So I'm going to create one more file, copy over the same code. So we'll check if the input given by the user is correct or not. So we're going to do one more example here. So we'll call it sample 2, and this is the condition we're going to check. Okay, and imagine this is an input from the user, right? Some input 1, and we'll say some text from the user, and we're going to have input 2, which is 34. So let's write one condition here, condition 1, and I'm going to say is null. And I'm going to say not, then I can say that this variable is not null. Okay, so $input 1 is not null, is not empty. I'm going to do an else here. I'm going to say is empty. Okay, so let's run this. Okay, so $input 1 is not empty, and if you comment this out, if you say null, then it is empty. Okay, so that's how basically you check the condition. You can do one more condition, condition 2. I'm going to copy paste this. Okay, we can even check if the variable is set or not. We can say is set, and we can add up multiple conditions using and or operator. Okay, you can say is set $input 1. So let's run this condition now. Because we haven't defined our variables, we have commented out our variables. So is null, is set is basically false. Let's run this now. So if I press again, refresh the page, then input 1 is empty. Okay, now we are checking is set and is null, and the more important thing that you understand is we are grouping the two conditions with an and operator. Let's do a third condition. You can even check not equal to null. Then you can do the if and else here. So there are 3 different types. One is you use a method, then you use an operator here, then you can use a not operator here, right? And then you check some conditions here. Okay, $1 is empty. Let's do one more example. So now we have seen 3 different ways of checking nulls. I'll give you a best way to check if the field is empty or not. Okay, so you can say empty, that's a method. and you can check whether the input variable is empty or not. Okay, it is empty, and if you remove this out and $value is not empty, this shows empty, so I believe it's coming up from here, right? Okay, so let's look at another condition. So this time we have an integer, we have checked with strings, so here is an integer, so we'll use input 2 here, and we'll check an integer condition. So we can say $input 2 is greater than or equal to 34. Then we can say input 2 is greater than 34. Is less than 34. Okay, so we have different type of condition. Let's print this. It's 34. Okay, is equal and greater than 34. So what we have seen in if conditions is you can use a method, you can use an operator, AND operator, you can use the operator of NOT to check. Then again you can use some methods here, and if it's an integer you can even use the operators for checking those conditions. Okay, this condition of checking if and else is very simple. You write with if, open parenthesis, close parenthesis, then you have flower brackets to open and close, then you have else, then open and close. Okay, let's move on to the third example. I'm gonna copy paste everything from here into this. So we're gonna do a sample 3 here, and the condition is if condition without braces. We'll see how the if behaves if there are no curly braces. So we'll say some boolean condition is equal to false, and we're going to write the same if condition that we have written above. We're going to use this. Okay, I'm going to say we're going to remove this, remove this. Okay, so we want to remove the flower brackets, right? That's what we want to check now, and you want to see what will happen if I remove the flower brackets. Okay, let's run the example 3. Go to third example, and this is a false condition, so it's able to know this is a false condition without the brackets as well, right? If I make it true, then this is a true condition, right? So it's able to understand even if you don't put the brackets here. Okay, let's see what happens if you do like this. Okay, let me call it false, I'll call it true. Okay, this is a valid question for interview or any test, just to understand how this will behave. Well, this will error out because there's no flower brackets, and the way the flower bracket works is only for one line. Okay, it only checks for one line. If you have one line, then you don't have to put the curly braces, and if you have more than one line, then it will error out. Okay, so I'm going to comment this out. So let's do a one-liner and understand how the one-liner will works. Okay, use the same condition here. Okay, what I mean by one-liner is I just put everything in one line. Okay, it's actually everything is in one line. Okay, and let's see if program can understand. and there is no problem in understanding in one line as well. You can write all the condition in one line. Remember the rule here, if you have one more echo it will fail, like what the case we have seen here. If you are having a curly braces, only one line is allowed, multiple lines are not allowed. Even you can put these lines on, not onto the new line but also to the sides, okay, to here, and then it doesn't really care for the new lines and everything. So we'll see a recommended practice. The recommended practice is, if you have one line conditions like this, always use braces. Okay, that's the recommendation that you have to follow for if conditions. Okay, never leave anything without braces because it's confusing to read, and let's say if there's some programmer who's trying to add some conditions, then the program will fail. Okay, so make sure always have a practice of writing braces and make it as an habit for your coding style. Okay, let's move on to the last example. Copy paste this. So let's look at the fourth example. So the fourth sample is basically check if the condition is passed or failed. So we will say result is equal to passed. Okay, and we'll check a condition here. If result is equal to passed, else the result is failed. So we'll say echo student has passed the exam. The student has not passed the exam. So let's check the result. So let's run the fourth file. Okay, so the student has passed the exam. So that's what we have seen, the student has passed the exam, and if you make it like something else, then the student has not passed the exam. So I hope it is very clear how to use the if conditions. We have seen 4 samples. Fourth one was check if student is pass or fail. So we use the equal operator, and we have used the variable to check with against the string. Then we have some recommended practice. We saw how the one liner and with and without curly braces. Then we have checked how to check the numbers and also check empty values. Then we have seen how to use the if conditions and control the output that would be printed on the HTML page. Okay, and then we have understood how to write an if and else conditions. Well, that's all about if and else statement, and I'll see you in the next one. Welcome to the lecture on control structures. We are seeing else if statements. This example, we'll do it now. So if you go to example 2, open up the logical flow, we'll check for odd or even numbers and print it, and we will use if, else and else if. Okay, and for part of this we'll create this file. Okay, we'll copy this file, go to Sublime, create this file. So we'll open up our logical flow. And we will do this using else if. Okay, so let's say you have a variable input number which is equal to 10. Let's do another variable result which capture the odd or even. This is modulus of 2, and you will check the condition if result and you can, this is statement of else if. Okay, so else if is basically if you have if and you want to do another if condition. Previously we have if and else, now it is if and else if. Else if means you can put one more curly braces and put one more condition there. So you can say else if it's not result means it's not 0. Then you can say this is an odd number. It's an even number. Okay, so let's go to console, PHP, else if statement. So it's an even number. Okay, you change it to 9, it's an odd number. Okay, so you used an if condition and you have used an else if. So you have two conditions here. You can still have an else here and you can put, but it won't get executed. Okay, so let me show you the structure here. This is structure. You have an if condition, you have an else if, then you have an else. The else if could be like this. Okay, it still works. The else if could have the space, doesn't really matter. You can use both the conditions. You can sequence n number of if, and the last statement you can put as the else statements. Means if this condition is true, it goes here. If else if is true, it goes here. Or else if all are false, then else by default will go here. So because all are false, the false statement will get executed. The if conditions only get executed if the condition is true. Okay, and you cannot write an if condition without a condition. Means you cannot write like this. Okay, if you want to always have a true condition, you can always put true here, and then you can always write any condition here because always true. But you have to have some conditions here. Without a condition, you cannot execute an if. Okay, so remember that. So we'll do one more example here. We'll check if the is greater than 10. Okay, so for this condition you can follow the if condition like this. So input number is greater than 10. You have one condition. You can write another condition and you can say if input is equal to 10. That means input number is equal to 10, then you want to go to another if block. And if it is not basically greater than 10 nor even equal to 10, then basically is less than 10. Okay, you can say echo okay. So you have your if, you have your else if, then you have your else. The else if you can write one more condition, and else you cannot write a condition here, right? You're just saying else, and then whatever is false, right, the false will be executed in the else block. If any of the if conditions or else if conditions are true, that block get executed and the rest of the blocks are ignored. Okay, so let's look at this output. So the number is less than 10 and the number is 9, that's why the number is less than 10. If you increase the number to 12, then the number is greater than 10, and if you change the number to 10, then the number is equal to 10. Okay, so based on the conditions, the code will get executed. The echoes that you have written will be executed based on whatever is the condition is true. So all the if condition, else if has to be true, and if nothing is true, the else block will be executed. Okay, so that's all on this lecture on else if statement, and I'm gonna see you in the next one. Welcome to the lecture on switch statements. We have seen if else and else if. So we'll convert this if else and else if statements to switch statements. So we'll see what is switch statements and how it looks like, and we'll try to convert the previous if statements to switch statements. Okay, if you open up the example, the logical flow is to even do the same thing, check odd or even and print it. We will use this switch statement now. I will understand how the syntax of switch statement looks like. So for this we will reuse this file, switch statements.php. Let's go ahead and create this file. Okay, and then we're going to use the previous sample example. So we'll open our previous example file, that is the else if statement, and we'll convert this condition into a switch condition. So I'm going to copy this. We'll convert this if statement into the switch statement, and we'll see how to use the switch statement syntax. So we'll say switch, and switch basically have a condition here, then it has a case. Okay, so whatever is the variable here, if it match with the case, then that case will get executed. Okay, so we'll say we want to check result. Okay, and if the result is 1 or case 0, the value of result is 1, then this case get executed. So you say echo odd number, then you have to put a break keyword here. Break is to break out of that case, then this is an even number. Okay, so that's how basically you write in switch statement. You have a switch, then you put a variable here, that's basically a condition, and the value of that condition you will check with the case. Because the result is 1, then this will be executed. If the result is 0, it will be executed. You can even have a default one. If nothing is found, then you can say invalid input, right? Okay, because default is the last statement, you don't need a break. Let's execute this. So we'll say php switch statement. So it's an even number and an even number. The even number, first one is coming from if condition, the second one is coming up from the switch statements. Okay, let's do another example. Let's convert another if condition to a switch condition. So we'll copy this over. You can try this out. You don't want me to type here, but you can take a break, pause this video here, and you can convert this if statement into a switch statement. Okay, so let me do it. So I'll say switch true. I'm going to show you one more way of how to use the switch. You can always put the variable here and check it, but you can always do like this as well. And you can print default as else statement. If nothing is true, then the false condition, that is the default condition, will get executed. Okay, so the number equal to 10. Okay, so it's the same condition executed twice because of the if and because of the switch statement. Okay, let's do a final one. Let's do a string based condition, switch condition now. Okay, let's say you have a weekday, which is a Friday. Let's say the weekday is Friday today, and then you want to check that condition. So you will say switch weekday, and you'll say case, is it Monday? Or you can type all those things, but I'm just showing you the condition here. You should always put breaks here. Okay, so we have a weekday variable which has fry, and then you want to find out the full form of that. then you put in a switch, and if that matches with that string, it will print out the Friday. If nothing is matched, others are printed. If one is matched, then Monday is printed. Okay, so it's converted 5 to Friday, and if it is something else, then it will print others. If it is Mon, it will print Monday. Okay, so that's how you basically use switch statement. And remember, you need to have a break. Let's say you don't have a break and you're executing for Monday, so after Monday even Friday will get executed. Okay, because it just continued down the flow. And let's say you don't have the break here as well, so all three will get executed. So you want to break it out, so you say break, then the other is not executed, you put a break here, and the Friday will get not executed. Okay, so break is important. Remember that for every case that you write and you want to close the case, there's no brackets here, you have to use the break statements, because you don't have like this, right? The reason you don't have this, you have to work around with the breaks. You have to tell where the case is completed, and that can be done using the break. I hope it is clear how to use switch statements. And you have to put a condition, then you have to put a case, and default is default, that is a false condition. You have compared it with the if conditions. So it's clear now how to write an if, else, and how to write a switch statement. Well, that's all about switch statement, and I'll see you in the next one. Hello and welcome to the lecture on for loop. So we are in the control structures example 4 for loops. So we'll open the logical flow and the deliverable file. So we'll see how to write for loop, and for that we'll use as example, we will print odd numbers from 1 to 10, and we will use a for loop, and we'll understand how to write a for loop and with different conditions. Okay, so we'll create this file for a loop, Control N, Control S. I'm going to create this file. So I'm going to show you the syntax of the for loop. So this is how the for loop look like. Okay, so for loop have three parts, 1, 2 and 3, separated with a semicolon. Okay, you have three parts separated with a semicolon. The first part is called as initialization part, wherein you initialize a variable, right? The second part is you write a condition. Till the condition is true, this loop will get executed. Then you have an increment section wherein you can increment your variable. Okay, so let's look at an example and write the example of printing the odd numbers from 1 to 10. Okay, so we'll do a sample 1. So this is a recommended way. Then we'll play around with the for condition to see what happens if you try to put some different conditions in the for loop. Okay, so we'll say for loop, open and close. Okay, the first section is initialization, so we'll say $value is equal to 1. So it's initialized only one time, means it is similar to as how you define it outside. Okay, you define it outside, but you don't have to do that for condition. You can actually define it here. The second one, so the second condition is basically the condition, right? So you are saying till what condition this loop has to be executed. So you're saying less than equal to 10. So you're saying, so till this condition is true, this loop will be executed. Okay, once it is false, this for loop will break and come out of it. So whenever the value is less than 10, it will execute the code. Okay, now the value is 1, so it will execute the code, and we can increment the value now. Okay, so that we get a loop of 10, and we can increment. So once you say plus plus, so this increment will happen every time the for loop start executing from starting. Okay, and we're gonna see this. So we're gonna say result $value modulus 2, and now we're gonna use if condition here. If the result is greater than 0, then we're gonna say odd number, then we'll say $value. Okay, so how this get executed? So first is the initialization. So here we are initializing a variable, then we are doing some condition, and this condition has to be true. then we are incrementing the variable. So every time the variable gets the value 1, the next time the value will be 2, the next time will be 3rd, and so on. Okay, and every time it is incrementing, we are checking whether it is odd number or even number. Okay, if it's an odd number, we are printing that value. So let's execute this. So you can say 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. That's basically you are checking for the odd number. So all the odd numbers has been printed here. Okay, so let's do one more condition here. Let's play around with it, but remember that the recommended way is like this. But I'm going to show you some different iterations of doing the same thing, just to understand how the for loop will behave. So if what happens if you take the initialization outside and then you want to run the code, okay, you can even do that, no problem in not specifying it. You can even do it outside. Okay, so I'll call it sample2. Let's do a sample3. Instead of post increment, we will do a pre-increment. Okay, when you do a pre-increment, you have to make it start from 0. So the first thing that execute is the pre-increment, and then the value will become 1. Okay, you can play around with it. I'm just giving you different examples of how it has been used. Let's do a sample4. And let's say if you take out all the conditions from the for loop, what will happen? If I take this out and I'm gonna put this somewhere in the last, and I'm gonna say 1, and it has no impact. So it's not necessary you have to put it increments here. You can put the increments in the last. You can take out the initialization on the bottom, but remember you have to mention the semicolons, so it knows whether this is a condition or this is an assignment or this is basically an increment. Okay, that's the condition for the for loop. You have to tell where is initialization, where is the condition, where is the increment. Okay, and let's do a last one. If you want to write an infinite loop, I'm not going to run this, but I'm going to show you an infinite loop. If you just say true here, okay, and you're going to leave it like this, then it's going to run forever. Okay, and this is an infinite loop. The reason behind this true never gets false, so it's just keep going into the loop. To break this out, say Control C, and then you break out of this loop. Okay, so this is a condition, so it's very important to understand how the for loop will work. I'm not gonna run this, I'm gonna comment this out. Okay, so I hope it's very clear how to write a for loop. Using for, you have in 3 different blocks. You have initialization block, condition, and then increment. Initialization, you initialize a variable value. Condition, you put a condition where if it's true, the for loop will get executed till this is true. And increment is a place where you increment the variables. Okay, and remember only the condition has to be available in the for loop to execute. Rest of the things you can just keep it outside as well. The one that we have seen here, nothing is put inside the for loop, only the condition has to be there, right? Once the condition is true, this block of the code will be executed. Okay, so that's all the lecture about for loops. Then we'll move on to the next one. Welcome to the lecture on the while loop. So we go to example 5, while loop control structures. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the for loop and then we'll convert that into a while loop. So we open the deliverable file and we're going to create this file. Okay, we're also going to open the for loop because we're going to convert the for loop into a while loop. So let's look at the while loop syntax. Okay, so this is how the while loop looks like. You have a while keyword, then you have a condition, and till the condition is true, the while loop get executed. Similarly like for loop, but for loop have 3 parts: initialization, condition, and increment. While doesn't have it. While only have condition. Okay, so let's take an example. this is a recommended way. Then we're going to play around with the while loop. So for the while loop doesn't have a initialization, so we have to say value is equal to 1, and we're going to say value less than equal to 10, dollar value plus plus. So this is basically a for loop, right? We have seen this in the part of the for loop. The while loop does the same. Its only thing is while loop doesn't have the initialization and it doesn't have the increment section. It only have the condition, and the condition is true, then this will get executed. So let's execute this. Because there's no echo, I'm gonna say echo dollar value 1, dollar value okay. So you print 1 to 10. So let's take an example of a for loop, same for loop, and we'll convert this into a while loop. So I'm going to comment this out. Okay, so this is basically a classic example of how you can write a loop. The loop have different parts, right? A loop has a condition, a loop has a condition and then an increment, or it could be a condition of something, some variable that you're checking, and that variable has to be true with some condition. So let's take this example of for loop and convert it into a while loop. Okay, so for that we'll say value is equal to 1, then we'll say while loop, and we'll put the same condition what we have here. Value is less than 10. Okay, and we can use the same piece of code here because it's not changing anything in the while loop as well. The only thing is initialization has to happen in the last, so that your condition will be turned out into a false condition and then break out of that loop. Okay, so same thing, but now you are using the while condition. The while condition looks like this: while there's a condition till true, the code will get executed. Okay, if you want to write an infinite loop, while true echo and this is gonna run forever, right? That's basically the power of the true condition. You can have any true condition here, and then whatever you write here will keep executing like this till the condition is true, because there's no condition to make this false, so it keep executing. So I'm going to cancel this out, Control C to come out. Well, that's all on the lecture on while condition. I'll see you in the next one. Welcome to the lecture on do while loop. We are in the control structures. Let's understand how to write a do while loop. For that, let's open the logical flow and deliverables. So the logical flow is we will print square of a number maximum till 100 using a do while loop. Okay, so we'll take this file, create this file. So let's look at how the do while structure looks like. Okay, so this is how the do while loop looks like. You start with the do, there's no condition, so it will always execute the code for the first time. Then there is a while condition. If the condition is true, the do will get executed again. Okay, so there's a time where you want to just run the code first, and if there is more iteration that has to happen, then the while condition will control that and send back to the do to execute it. Okay, so let's take an example and run this. And one thing that you have to remember is semicolon after the while. Many a times you will forget this, so I'm just reminding you this. Remember, there's a semicolon that you have to add after the while condition. So let's define two variable, max value 100, dollar value 1 is 2. We'll start with 2, and then maximum value that value 1 can go is 100. Okay, so we are saying do while some condition. So dollar value 1 is less than equal to dollar max value, and remember there's a semicolon here, so we'll say echo square dollar value 1 dot php ul dollar value 1 multiplied by 2, and we're going to run this. Okay, 2 4 8 16 32 64. Okay, so this is how you basically write a do and a while. Remember, the while has to be a condition. If you want to do an infinite loop, you just have to have a true condition here, semicolon, okay. So that's how you play around with do while loop. You can put a true condition here. Till the while condition is true, the loop get executed. Okay, press Ctrl C to close this program. Okay, so I hope it is clear how to use do while. You use do while when there is a piece of code that you want to execute first, then check the condition. If you want to check the condition first, you have for and while. For have all the three blocks, initialization, condition, and then increment. While only have condition. Do while is first you execute the block, then there's a condition there. Okay, well, that's all about do while loop, and I'll see you in the next one. Hello and welcome to the lecture on break statements. We're doing example 7 for control structures. If you go to break statement logical flow, we'll understand how to break a loop using a break keyword. Okay, we'll use a keyword and we'll see how to break a loop. This is the file name that we'll use using break.php. Let's create this file. Okay, so we'll understand how to break the infinite loop. Print 1 to 10 using infinite loop. So if this is the program that you want to write, you want to print 1 to 10 using infinite loop, the loop condition should always be true. So let's say you are doing a do while loop and you are saying true, and let's say you have a variable okay. Now this is an infinite loop, right? You want to break this infinite loop and only print till 1 to 10. How you gonna do it? Okay, that's where you use the break keyword. Okay, you can say, you can write an if condition. If dollar value is equal to 10, or you can say greater than equal to 10, then you want to break from the loop. The break will not break the if conditions. The break always break the looping conditions. For loop, while loop, do while loop. Switch, we have used the break to break from the case. In the if condition, the break will not affect. Means you are not breaking an if, you are actually breaking a loop. Even you write inside an if, this will affect the loop. Okay, so let's run this, and you can see it's printing only 1 to 10. If you put 100 here, so it will print till 100. If you put 1000 here, so it's executed till 1000. Okay, so that's how you use a break keyword to break out of the loop. Imagine you have 3 loops, okay, and you want to break out of the inner loop. That's the third loop. So you have loop inside loop inside loop. You only want to break out of one loop, that is in the first loop. How are you gonna do it? Let's look at an example. So how to break an multiple loop. Okay, so I'll say loop 1, I have loop 2 and loop 3. Okay, let's try to use all the three loops. Okay, you have a for loop, so the first loop I'll say loop 1 less than equal to 10 dollar loop 1 plus plus. So this is a for loop. Inside for loop I want to write a while loop, so I'll say dollar loop 2 less than equal to 10. Okay, now I have a for loop, while loop. I want to write a do while loop inside the while loop. Dollar loop 3 less than equal to 10 dollar loop 3 plus plus. And I'm gonna say inside the while loop I'm gonna say dollar loop 2 plus plus. Then for loop, the loop 1 is already incremented. Okay, so let's start printing the loops. Okay, so echo loop 1 dollar loop 1 php eol. Okay, so this is the for loop, right? And I'm gonna say when to break the for loop. If dollar loop 1 is equal to 7, then I'm saying when the dollar loop 1 is equal to 7, then you put a break. Okay, so to simplify this is what we are doing. Okay, we write in for loop, we are saying if the for loop reaches 7, then you put a break. Okay, but inside for loop we have while loop and do while loop. So for the while loop we are saying break it at 6. Break this at 6. This is loop 2, this is loop 2. Okay, for do while we say we break it at 5. Loop 2, this is loop 3. Okay, so you see there's a break statement here, there's a break statement here, and there's a break statement here. So this break statement, the first break statement will affect the do while, and this break statements will affect the while, and this break statement will affect the for loop. Okay, so let's run this. So the loop 3 runs for 5 times, that is 1 2 3 4, fifth one breakout. The loop 2 runs 5 times and the loop 1 runs 6 times. Okay, so it's very important to understand when the break happened. So for the third loop the break happened when it was 5. The second loop the break happened when it was 6, that is the fifth one printed, after that sixth one break. For the loop 1 it broke out when it is 7 before printing that. So we are not printing the 7 before 7. If the value reaches 7, then we are breaking it out. Okay, so remember, when you break, the next statement will not get executed. You are coming out of the loop. So you understand the break statement. The break is not breaking all the loops. Okay, the first break that you saw here only break the do while. The second break that you saw was only affecting the while loop. The third loop break that you have is actually affecting the for loop. So break also understand the nearest loop that it want to break. It won't break all the loops that is inside in it. Okay, so understand how the break works and how to use it. This is a very good example to see how the break works and how the break operates when it's inside multiple loops. Well, that's all the lecture on break keywords, and I'll see you in the next one. Hello and welcome to the lecture on continue statements and control structures. Go to example 8, continue statement. Open the logical flow. So we'll print even numbers using a while infinite loop and break after 10 numbers. So we'll use the continue keyword, and then we'll also use the break keyword to see how to use the continue keyword. Okay, for this we will create this file. So continue we'll skip the next line and go to the will continue help you to skip the loop. Means if you have 10 lines in a loop, you want to execute the first line and then again execute the next iteration of the loop, you can use the continue keyword. I'm going to try it with an example now. The example that we're going to do is this one. Okay, so let's write a variable value 1 and we'll use a while loop, infinite loop. Okay, and we'll check the even numbers, right? So we'll say result is equal to $value %2, and we will echo the even numbers. Okay, and we will break it out greater than 10. We'll use a break statement. So let's increment value also. Okay, so let's run this. Now you have 1 to 10 value, but you only have to print the even numbers. Okay, so how you're going to print an even numbers using the continue keyword. So you can say if $result is equal to 1, and before continuing you want to increment the value. Okay, what continue does it skip these lines. Okay, it skip these lines, it go back to while. Okay, so if you don't want to print this for odd numbers, you only want to print for even numbers, you are saying continue when it is an odd number. Okay, so that's how you can see only the even numbers, because your continue statement will go back to the while loop and it will start executing the next line of, means the result is 0 means an even number. This if condition will not get executed, it will go down the loop and it will print the even numbers. That's what we have seen here when there was no if condition. And continue basically breaks those odd numbers. So based on the result is equal to 1, you're breaking those odd numbers and then in going back the loop. That's why you're not able to see the odd numbers, you're only able to see the even numbers. Well, that's how the continue keyword will work. It will help to reiterate the loop without executing the next line of the code in the sequence. Okay, so that's all about the continue keyword, and I'll see you in the next one. Hello and welcome to the lecture on return statements. So go to example 9, return statement, open up the logical flow and the deliverables file. So we'll write a function and then we will return empty if the input parameters are empty. Okay, there we'll use a return parameter and then we'll understand how to use return keyword. So for this we will use this file name and we'll create an example. For this we'll create a function. We will say check user roles function, and then you have to pass in the user roles. Okay, and then we will call this user roles with the role. Okay, we will write a switch statement. We'll say admin, then we have editor, then we have default. So for each of the case we need the breaks, and when it's admin we want to print hello admin. When it's editor we want to print hello editor. And for defaults we're just gonna leave like that. Okay, so let's run this, then we'll understand the return statement. Okay, so it's fine when you pass in admin, and it will be fine when you pass in editor, right? But you don't want to execute this code when someone runs without the data, right? If you pass in nothing, then obviously nothing is printed, but you want to have some kind of return statement from function, and you don't want to execute this code when user roles is empty. So we'll say do not execute this code when user role is empty. So you want to have some kind of control in the function wherein you don't want to execute the other part of the code when some of the fields are empty. Okay, so for that you can actually check whether the field is empty or not. You can say if $user roles is empty, then you want to do something here. Maybe you want to print something, say roles cannot be empty, right? Let's look into this. Okay, the roles cannot be empty, but you see the next switch statement will obviously execute. To test that, you can even do this. Okay, the roles is empty, but you don't want to execute this roles is empty. You want to maybe exit out of the function, and you don't want to execute the rest of the code. That's where the return statements come in handy. If you do return, you see the roles empty is not been printed. So the return statement has many different meaning when used for functions, right? For in this case, to understand return statements when we are doing control statements is also again used to break a function. Okay, you want to break a function, you can use a return statement. However, return can also return some value from the function. There is a separate topic on function where we talk about how to pass parameters, how to return some parameters from the function. But in this context of control structure, understand return statement can be used to break a function. You want to break the execution of the function and you have to come out of the function. So that's where the return keyword will be helpful. Okay, remember this case wherein you don't want to execute the rest of the code in the function, but you want to come out of the function if some of the condition is not matched. Okay, that's the case wherein you will use return keyword, and it can be used inside the function, and whenever the condition is matched, and if you put return anywhere, let's say you put return on top, right, nothing will be executed. Means the return function will break the function and then it will come out of the function. Okay, so understand how the return can be used inside a function, and that's one case where you can use inside the function. The other cases, return can also return some value from the function, which will be discussed in the function course. But for now, on this control structures, that's all about the return statement, which is used to break from the function. That's all for this lecture on return keyword, and I'll see you in the next one. Hello and welcome to the lecture on include. If you go to control structures, example 10, include. Let's open up the logical flow. So include is basically used to embed PHP file into another PHP file. That's the whole purpose of include. So what we're going to do is we're going to create different files. We'll have main.php. Then we'll create some other sub files like header.php, menu.php, and footer.html. And then we'll include all these files inside the main.php. So you're trying to create a page where you have three sections: header section, menu section, and footer section. You can differentiate your HTML code inside these different files, and then you can include them in the main.php. Then we'll analyze how the output will look like. Okay, for this we will create 4 files. So let's quickly create all these files. Okay, so that's main.php. So this is the main file which actually includes all the other files. So to include, you can say include. Okay, the header .php we will create. We haven't created, so once it created, it will be included on the top, and obviously it is on the top, so it will hold the HTML title and head section. Then you can have body here, and inside the body we can include the two files. Let's say include menu.php. So we'll include menu.php, and then we will have an, let's say, h1 tag which will say exercise on how to include files. And what we'll do, we'll put the body in the footer, and then we'll include that footer file, footer.html. Okay, this looks like your part of your HTML, right? So your header, you have your HTML tag, title tag, and head tag. Then body tag, you have your menu, then some text. Then the closing tags, everything, the closing of body and HTML and all the footer that you want to add a copyright or something, you included everything in the include that footer.html file, which you'll include in the last. Okay, so let's quickly create all these files. Header.php. So here we will put a doc type. Then we'll have HTML. We already have an, so we don't need body because body is already there. We'll say include function. Header is done. Then you have menu.php. So we have menu.php. So we'll create a menu here. We'll create a link here. And we'll call it home. About and contact. Okay, imagine this is our menu. Then we have our footer.html file. So include will include not only PHP, any file that you want. So you can include .html as well. Okay, so we'll say copyrights. And you have to close the body tag because we haven't closed the body tag in the main.php, so we have to close it here. Okay, so you have your header.php, that's here, you have till head tag. Then you have your menu.php, that is have all the links. Okay, then we have footer.html. the footer.html just have the closing of body and HTML. So this is just to show you how to include different set of files inside one file. Okay, so let's run this. So if you run the main.php, you can find the menu here, you can find the h1 tag, and then you have your copyrights here. Okay, that's all coming up from the main.php, which is including all the files. Means once you say include, all the code is dumped here, means this code is replaced this with like this. Okay, when the output is fetched to the browser will see this, not the header.php file. So if you look at the page source, you can see the outputs are dumped, right? The outputs are dumped from the corresponding file that has been included. Okay, so that's how to work with include function, and then we'll look at other types of includes as well. Okay, so that's all for this lecture on include, and I'll see you in the next one. Hello and welcome to the lecture on require. Well, require is similar to include. It is also used to embed one PHP file into another. So we'll try to see the difference between include and require, but the function of require and include is exactly the same. So we'll reuse the same example that we have just created for include, We'll try to add one more line here and say submenu. Okay, so we don't have this submenu.php file. We'll see what happens when we try to include a file that is not available. Let's try to execute this file. Okay, so we have our menu, submenu and footer. Let's include this file. You obviously see an error because this file is not available, but the interesting thing is it keep on executing. It doesn't stop executing. Even if it doesn't find the file, it's keep on executing the other part of the program. But in some cases, this file might be required to process the other file that is down below. And if this file is accidentally deleted in somewhere in your server and someone is trying to execute this page, you don't want to continue showing the rest of the page because you know obviously it will be an error. In that case, you should not use include, you should include require. You should say require, means if this file is not available, do not execute the rest of the code. The require function will make sure this file is available on the server. If this file is not available, it will not execute the rest of the code. It will just exit out from the program. So if you see, if I refresh the page, this line of code will not be visible. That's the function of the require. The require makes sure that this file is available, and if it's not available, it will just exit from the program. Include will not exit out of the program. It will just continue executing the program, wherein the require typically exit out of the program. Okay, that's the only difference between include and require. And when to use include and require is mostly up to the developer, but it's highly recommend you use require, right? You don't want to include something and make sure it's not available, and you still want to show the rest of the program doesn't look good. Maybe you want to just throw an error and then you want to exit the program. Just to be on safer side, if you're doing some calculation based on that file that is not available, then obviously it's an error. So it's better you do not show all those junk data to the user, you just exit from the program. Okay, so it's highly recommended you use require compared with include. And if you have an includes which is not really very important one, then you can just go ahead and use the include. Okay, but most of the time, if you look at the how programming has been done in real life, they always go with require. Okay, so that's all about require versus include, and I hope you understand the difference between the two. Okay, so that's all on the lecture on require, and I'll see you in the next one. Hello and welcome to the lecture on include once. We are looking at control structures, example 12, include once. So let's understand include once. So we'll use the same file that we have used for include, and we'll create include once. So how do you write include once? Include underscore once. The purpose of include underscore once is to include that files only one time. Okay, so if you refresh the page, even though you have included twice, it's not shown on the output. It's only shown on the one time, because it will check whether this file is already been included somewhere in the program. If it is already included, it will not include the second time. Whereas include, if you do include, it will doesn't care how many times you have included, it will keep including the file. Means you can see the output here. But if you try to include once again, right, it doesn't include it because it knows it's already been included. So that's basically a very good feature for us to use. If you have a library that you only want to include once, you don't want to include like every time that someone want to use it, because a program can be written by multiple developers. Let's say a 5 developer. The 5th developer don't know what happened on the top. Maybe in the bottom he's trying to include the library, assuming that's not been included. So in order to do that, you don't have to include twice, because if you use include, right, it will include twice. You have to use include once just to be safer side. If it's already included, the include once will first check whether this file is included. If it is included, it will not include the file, it will just skip it. Okay, that's why the reason if you have even 4 includes, you see 2 in the output, that is only coming up from the include. So if you just comment this out, or if you delete this out, you can see it's only included once, right? It's not included twice. That's the reason behind include once will only include that file once. Even though it's included with the include function, it doesn't care it's included with include or something, but include once will just make sure the file has been included only one time, and the second time it doesn't really include. So if you delete the first line. Okay, that's the reason why it's shown, is because it's the first time the menu.php is not included, so it will include the file. Okay, so it wants both way, it will check, and if it's not included then it will include. If it's already included, it will not include it. Okay, so that's the difference between include and include once, and it's highly recommended if you want to use include and you don't want to include multiple times, then you have to use include underscore once. If you have a case where you want to include multiple times, then you have to go with include. Okay, so make that logical decision when to use include and when to use include underscore once. A good example is, if you have a library file, you don't want to include that library file which has functions in it multiple times. You don't want to include a class multiple times, right? You want to include that only once, so that you get the reference of all those functions into your program. Wherein if you have a snippet that you want to include multiple times in your same page, then you go with include. You don't go with include once. Okay, so understand the difference and use it wisely wherever it's required. Okay, that's all the lecture on include once, and I'll see you in the next one. Hello and welcome to the lecture on require once, example 13, control structures. If you open up the folder, we'll try to use the same file that we have used for include, and we'll try to understand from the same scenarios. So we have include and include once that we have seen previously. Let's do a require and require once. So we know require means it will check the file. If its file is available, it will include it. If it's not, then it will break the program. It will exit from the program. Okay, and you also have a require once. Similar to how include and include once work, the only difference is the require once will include only one time, and similar to how include underscore once work, there's no other difference. The only thing is the require function will basically exit out of the program if the file is not available. So if you have to choose between require and require once, the require once, this is always recommended. Okay, again the logic is again the same. It's always recommended if you want to embed only once. Okay, if you want to embed multiple times and you want to make sure the file is available, and if the file is not available, you want to exit from the program, then you want to go with require. If you want to include only once, you want to embed only once, and then you want to make sure the file is available, the file is not available, you want to exit the program, then you will go with require underscore once. Okay, the difference is only comes with once. The underscore once, which is dictating, saying that the file can only be included one time. If it's already included, don't include this file. Okay, again the scenario will be like a library file, or if you have a snippet and you want to include it multiple times, go with require. Okay, so let's run this program, and it's very simple. It will require will include it once, it will not include the twice. If you duplicate the require, means you require twice, then it basically will be showing twice here, right? And the underscore once, even though it's there, it's not visible here. So understand the difference between require and require once. Use it only when you want to include the file once, and if you want to include multiple times, just go with require. Okay, so that's all about require once, and I'll see you in the next one. Hello and welcome to the lecture on GoTo. So we'll look at example 14 GoTo, and we'll see how to use the GoTo operator. Learn how to use the GoTo operator. So we'll use this file name to create the example. The main purpose of GoTo is to create a label, or basically a breakpoint kind of thing, a check mark, or basically a point where you want to jump to. You want to jump to that location on your program. You can create a label in that program, and then you can use the GoTo operator to go to that label. Okay, we're gonna see with an example. So we're going to create a variable input value, and we can say if input value if less than equal to 0, then you go to an error block. Okay, this is a label that we can define in our program. We can say this is a label, and we can say echo this is an error block, and will execute anyway. Means even though the value of input value is greater than 0, this will also be executed. Okay, so let's run this and we'll go along and understand go to statement more. Okay, so this is an error block and will execute anyway. So if you make it 10, it will keep executing. If you make it 20 as also, it will keep executing. Okay, so even though you don't do go to, the program will come down and execute this. Okay, it doesn't mean that you have a label means it should not be executed. Label is just a naming to that breakpoint in your program. Okay, it's a point that you are labeling with name in your program. It's like an anchor tag in the HTML. You put an anchor tag in the same page so that you can jump to that location. It's something similar like an anchor tag that you place in the HTML page. You can use the go to statement and put the label there, and then or an anchor name, then you can go to that anchor. But if you are not using go to, like in this condition, the input value is greater than 0, even though this will be executed. So to avoid this, you can do an exit, right? Once you do an exit, then that line will not be executed. That line will only be executed when the value is 0. Okay, so exit, it doesn't mean if it has an exit you cannot jump out of the exit. Means you cannot go after the exit. The exit will execute only when it go in the sequence. Where go to can actually go to any line in your code, and you just have to mention a label to it, and label can be anywhere that you can place, and in the program the go to will go there. Okay, so let's write another label and we will jump from the for loop. So let's define a for loop and we'll jump out of the for loop. So we'll say count is equal to 0. Count is and we'll say if count is equal to 2, then I want to go to loop 2. Okay, then I'll say loop 2 so we are jumping from the loop to outside the loop and to a point in the program. Okay, so exit will exit the program if this go to doesn't work. So let's run this program. So you can see counter value is 2, and it perfectly shows you that when it was 2, it break out of that loop and it went to this statement. Okay, and then you can able to capture the count value as well. Okay, this is a perfect condition, but highly recommend don't do go to, right? You can do a break statement here, come out of the loop, and then you want to execute as a function or something, but highly recommend not to use go to into the programming style. Okay, unless it's very important, it's not recommended to follow this kind of style. One thing that you cannot do with go to is you cannot go to let's say loop 3, right? And this loop 3 is inside your for loop. You cannot do that. You cannot go inside a for loop. Let's say you have a loop 3 and you want to print something like this. Okay, this is not a valid case. Okay, you cannot go to inside the loop. Okay, you can come out of the loop, but you cannot go inside the loop. So remember this condition. Okay, it will give a fatal error because go to labels has to be outside the loops. Okay, if you place this outside, the program will work fine. right? If it's inside, it will give you an error. So don't make that mistake. Don't put your labels inside the for loop. Okay, it won't work. It will give you an error because you cannot jump inside the loop. Well, that's on the lecture on GoTo, and I'll see you in the next one. Hello and welcome to the lecture on exercise 1. So in this exercise, we will display odd and even numbers, but we will use some of the concepts that we have learned here. So let's open up this exercise, open up the logical flow. So the purpose is to display even and odd number, not much on the logic, but more on understanding how the concepts that you have used you can apply when you want to print an even and odd numbers. Okay, so for this we will define a max number in the namespace file. So we'll have a configuration file in which you can define a maximum number constant with a value. Then you'll write a for loop to loop for max number of times that constant value. You can use it from the namespace file, and then you'll require that file into your actual main file. Then you'll print even and odd number in a tabular format. Okay, for this you have before and after file. Before file basically have the HTML structure, right? You can start using this before file and start writing the program. Okay, remember that you have to create two files. One file is this, another file you have to create is the configuration file. Okay, in the configuration file you have to define the max number as a constant, which value is equal to something, and then you have to write a loop for that number of times and print even and odd in a tabular format. Pause the video here and do the exercise, and once you're done with the exercise, then you can continue watching this video. Okay, welcome back. So let's do the exercise now. So I have this file. Let's save this file. I'll save it in the amps folder, control, and I'll remove this before. Okay, so we'll start writing the logic here. So for that, first we'll create one more file, and I'll call it my config file. Here we'll try to create a namespace. And we'll define a constant. Maximum underscore numbers is 10, right? And we'll try to use this file. So how to use a file? We have learned about require, and we only want to require once. And then we'll write a for loop for it, and we'll say counter is equal to 0, less than equal to. Then you can say my config slash max underscore numbers. Okay, and we can define a result here, modulus 2, and if, then this is basically an even number or it's an odd number. So you're using an else here. So we are used for loop, we have used required once and namespaces, then we have used the if conditions. Okay, this is what we have learned in this section, and we are using all this stuff and then writing a simple table that displays even and odd number. So let's create our table now. We have our core logic ready. Let's define our table. So we can say table, create a row, then the column, number column, we'll say odd, even, that's our heading, and then we'll close our tier. Okay, and finally in the bottom we'll close our table. Okay, so we have to close the PHP as well. Okay, now we will start writing the even and odd numbers. So we'll write our even and odd numbers. So before that we can echo the row. You can say TD and then this is a number, right? And we can close the TR. Then we have even and odd numbers that we can write. So this is no and this is yes. This is not an odd, this is an even number, right? And then we can reverse this out. We can say yes, you can say no. Okay, so that's all. We have a table now, and when we print this we will see all the numbers. Based on the max numbers the loop will iterate and show us the even and odd number. So let's execute this. Okay, so you have a table here which says 0 is even, 1 is odd, 2 is even, 3 is odd, 3 is odd, 4 is even, 5 is odd, 6 is even, right? And you can change this just by changing your configuration file. Let's say you want to see till 50, then you can see till 50. Okay, just see by 100, then you can see till 100. Okay, very simple and very easy to play around with configuration files. Okay, so the concepts that you have done in this exercise, you have used a namespace, and then you also created and used a namespace. You have required it once, then we have used for loop, then you have used an if condition, and then we have embedded the PHP inside an HTML, right? So we are able to display the output as per we want, and we are able to do the exercise. That's all for this lecture on exercise 1 on even and odd numbers using the concepts we have learned, and I'll see you in the next one. Hello and welcome to the exercise 2 in control structures. So let's create an easy table calculator. This is a very classic example, and what you'll be doing here is you'll be creating a table, numbers table in a table format. So if you have like 10, then you show all the tables to from 1 to 10, right? 1 to 10 means 1 table, 2 table, 3 table, 4 table, 5 table and 10 table, right? If you change the number, the table will keep on increasing. Okay, this is a very classic example to understand how to play around with the for loop. It includes logical thinking, and also it will help you understand how do you write your for loops. Okay, try this example. I can pause the video here and try this example and try to display the numbers table in a tabular format. So for this we have our before file and after file. You can take the before file and start doing the exercise here. So let's save this file. So I'll go to amps www control, and I'm going to remove that before. Okay, so let's write an easy table here. So first we need to define a table, and I'll say align left. I'll show some border just to have some padding, cell padding and cell spacing. We'll add something. Okay, so table is ready. Let's write the for loop here. So first loop you will have 1 to 10, right? So table num is equal to 1, table num is less than equal to 10, then table num plus plus. Here you can create the rows. Open and close the rows. Then you can write one more for loop to display the table. Now to display the the number of the table. If the number is 1, then you display 1 table. If 2, then 2 table. For that you have to write one more loop, and we say value is 1, dollar value is less than equal to 10, dollar value plus plus. So you have two variables here. One variable is a table number and one variable is running from 1 to 10. Okay, so you just echo out the column here. You can say dollar table num multiplied by dollar value 1, dollar value, which is actually equal to dollar table 1 multiplied by dollar value, and you'll close the column. You can put this in the parentheses. Okay, nothing fancy, just a simple table that you're displaying here. Okay, so let's run this. This exercise 2. Okay, so we have a beautiful table here. We have one table to 10, then one table to 20, then 1 to 30, 1 to 40, and then you have the 10 table here. Okay, the beauty of this is basically coming up from the loop. Okay, you have to understand how to logically write your loops. Okay, and then you can easily print with a few lines of code using the for loop. Okay, this is how you basically print a table, and try this out without seeing this first, and then you can create more number of tables. So if you want to increase the table number, you can just go ahead and multiply that, and then you're gonna see till 20, right? So I hope you have done this exercise on creating a easy table calculator using the for loop. Well, that's all for this lecture on exercise on easy table calculator, and I'll see you in the next one. Hello and welcome to the assignment section. So do this simple assignment to understand how to work with loops. So the practical test, go to the practical test folder, open up the logical flow. So you have to write an infinite loop. The loop you can choose whichever you want. You can write for loop, while loop, or do while loop, and you have to print even and odd numbers till the number 20. So you can choose to have this number 20 in the namespace file as a config file, and then you can write the loop, an infinite loop, to print this even and odd number. You can choose to use break, or you can choose to use goto, whatever way. You can try this example with many different ways, right? And you can write it the same exercise with for loop, do while loop, and while loop, so that you get to practice all the different scenarios with just one example. Do this assignment and have some hands-on on all the loops concepts, if concept, and also on the keywords. Okay, all the best for your assignment, and I'll see you in the next one. Well, that's the end on this section of control structures. Let's quickly summarize what you have learned by now. You should be able to write if and switch conditional statements. You should be able to write loop using for, while, and do while. Then you should be able to understand when to use break, when to use continue, and how it's the purpose of the return keyword. Then you should know the difference between include versus require and when to use them. Then also how to use the goto keyword. And I believe you have worked through with the exercises and all the assignments that is provided to understand control structures better. That's all on this section on control structures, and I'll see you in the next one.